Mystery Room. The spin cycle is on, but we'll be as truthful with you as possible. I hope we're still connecting. Robert, can you see me?
I can.
Oh, that's important, that you can visually connect with me.
Yeah, but I did notice that latency, baby. We got that latency.
How bad is the latency?
I would say there's about 15 seconds, and it's mostly from me to you. So,
okay, wonderful. All right, so we're gonna power ahead. Are we even on Facebook right now?
We should be. I really hope we are.
Okay, I hope we are as well. This is ridiculous, man. Every day, it's something. A lot of news to get into on the show today. We will be looking into the situation with live events. We are in a completely different world now with the coronavirus, shutting down live events across all of entertainment in all of the world. And how could next year's WrestleMania possibly be affected? The passing of one of the most legendary ring announcers in wrestling history. And we'll dive into the WWE, NXT, and AEW ratings, which are telling us something, and it isn't good. Plus, more fallout from those massive, awful, unfortunate WWE layoffs from yesterday. These are dark days in the wrestling world. Weren't we supposed to be in a wrestling boom, Robert?
Yeah, it went boom all right, Kevin. It went boom. It went boom up in everybody's face.
Yeah, exactly here. All right, so if you're with us, go ahead and share the link, and we'll try and get your comments on screen if we can handle it here. Hopefully everything is looking good for you guys there. Robert, the story coming from Mayor Garcetti. He is the mayor of Los Angeles, California, which is the host city for next year's WrestleMania 2021, WrestleMania 37, going down at the SoFi Stadium. That is the future home of the two NFL franchises out there. So this is going to be something that could be really unfortunate, as there's some internal emails that leaked from the Los Angeles Fire Department that they don't think they could have live events, live mass gatherings into the spring of next year. This is one of the biggest cities in America. This is a city that hopes in a few years to have the Olympics as well. Two major NFL franchises, massive amounts of studio television is filmed there, talk shows, whatever you want to say. So this goes well beyond WWE, but this could be really put a question mark over WrestleMania. Now, this is purely speculative. If you get that information, you can put it there, but it's the spring of 2021. Now, if they say, all right, you can have live gatherings, are they going to immediately pull the green light and say, yeah, let's put 80, 90,000 people in a stadium and have a WrestleMania? Let's put these people in an arena. I don't know. And it could be staged out. So there's a lot of speculation now of what this could do for the future. And we didn't have a live WrestleMania this year, and that estimated to cost WWE between $15 and $17 million, all circumstantially taking a hit. And a lot of people think that contributed to the layoffs that were announced yesterday, and we'll get into those within the show. So people saying it's a little bit too dramatic to even report those. But here's the thing. This is hard information.
So
this is
here's
hard
what
info
we know.
From real people.
Here's what we know. The LA Times reported that there was an internal memo to the fire department that said, hey, we might not have concerts and mass gatherings up for another year. Now, the time frame here is interesting because we're looking at something that can potentially pull the trigger and have WWE say, we were the first live event mass gathering since the coronavirus. And you know that WWE, if there's one thing they get off on, it's the ability to do that. First time ever. Rah-rah. I mean, who wouldn't for sure, but the WWE takes extra pride in that.
Tell me what sports franchise, tell me what live music tour, tell me what huge music festival is not going to want to plant their flag in that.
No, and I understand that, but I'm saying that even when things are normal, WWE takes great pride in doing first time ever First time ever. So
Okay, Anthony email Baltimore saying there's not a lot going on. Dirt sheets are just reaching for content right now. This isn't a reach. This isn't a reach. This is public information reported by the Los Angeles Times. Are you telling me the LA Times is a dirt sheet?
and here's the thing, Anthony, if you're paying attention, there's
You're
nothing
not.
but
He's not
content
paying
for
attention.
us. There's nothing but
not.
content for us.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Millions of
information
people
to
laid
talk
off.
to.
Legendary Howard Finkel passes away. Yes, this story was broken yesterday. We did not get a chance to get to it on the daily, so we had to get it. We have to get to it today. That is what's happening there. I think WrestleMania happens in LA.
I think WrestleMania happens in LA, but is there a possibility that maybe they don't run it at SoFi Stadium? Maybe they don't get to run 80,000 people. Maybe they have to, scale it down. Maybe they have to run in a smaller arena, or multiple arenas just to break up the crowd.
Forgive my wrestling nerddom, but it would be 30 years prior by that point that they were supposed to run in the Los Angeles Coliseum, do bomb threats. They did have to move to a smaller stadium. That's not unprecedented, but who knows?
Joseph Presley saying MetLife for WrestleMania 37. Vince, who is this Vince that everyone talks about? You knew I was going to do that. Vince will work his magic with New Jersey, New York. He always does. Well, I can tell you, there's no talk of it moving. WWE hasn't commented on this story yet. And mind you, what we're talking about is a little bit more than speculative. This is from real sources, the fire chief of Los Angeles.
Dude.
Yeah.
From the mayor of Los Angeles.
Like we this isn't like a big shocker. It's a big shock to think that there wouldn't be another WrestleMania after this year, but we're in this position where you're looking at every major music festival for this summer is in doubt. Every single one. Coachella in Indio, California, huge one, that got canceled. I can tell you there is serious doubt in Chicago of whether or not there will be a Lollapalooza this year. So you're looking at real problems across the entire internet, the entire entertainment spectrum here. So this is, pretty big deal here, guys. And it isn't hard to kind of connect the dots here.
John Kirby said LA Times isn't a sports outlet. Okay, but they are a effing LA outlet. Like, I don't understand this.
This isn't a sports story.
We're not doing this CNN thing where we're gonna jump on the WWE thing just because it's the hot ticket and we want to attack the popular news. We're just saying that this is what LA Times reported. We're not even saying that there won't be a WrestleMania 37. We're just talking about the news that broke yesterday.
Big question coming in from you know what? I don't want to be too loud. I might wake some people up. I'm in the laundry room. I'm going to put this on you, faithful fan of the show, maybe one of our number one fans. He has a question, and his name is Robert
James Espanto Fernando Tago.
That's right. Thank you, Robert. He
Kevin
says,
can't roll the R like I do, so I just,
Oh, I can roll the R. Robert.
Yeah. Failure. So even better.
Call Matthew from Botchamania. He got me. He says, Big Kevin. I messed up my own name. Big Kev, and Robert. Could you see them move WrestleMania from Los Angeles to Texas, maybe Houston, Dallas, or San Antonio? Who knows? I mean, this is just some early news, and also this could change. Maybe life is better in a few months, and we can get back out there and do some big things.
It's very early. We're just reporting what we know. If it was to move, my guess would have to be here in Florida because they already want to open. They're not trying to be closed. It's not like New York extending their stay-at-home order.
Robert, can you see me? Robert? Robert, I'm going to have you come out and come back. Gotta love the internet, man. It's every day. It's something here. All right. Hey, everybody, what's up? Trying to do this again here. Rolling along. If you can see me, give me a thumbs up on this, guys, okay? It's Kevin Kellum back with you. We're talking about what is going on with WrestleMania next year. So what we know, Los Angeles Times once again reporting that all live events, all mass gatherings could be affected in the city. And that is a major city, second largest city in America. And so it seems like it's a very weird case here. If you can see me, give me a thumbs up here, guys, or give me some comments that you're joining along here with me. That is the story we were covering before our internet connection was interrupted. So, yeah, this is what happens before a zombie attack. Come on, guys. This isn't a zombie. This is a virus, but it is not a zombie. It's slightly different. I'm going to tell Robert to join me here in a little bit. People saying the Jericho cruise, Chris Jericho's cruise, is scheduled for February 1st, 2021. Who knows? Cruise industry devastated by this. They had so many outbreaks there. More questions kind of coming. Do you see most of the released WWE wrestlers coming back to the WWE? We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. I have a little bit more insight on that whole situation as this comes along here, but I'm just trying to stay connected to the internet, let alone moving along here. John Kirby saying California and New York will ban sports and mass gatherings till 2021. We've heard talk of that, but it's not for certain. So that's where we're at here. Other news we're looking at is the unfortunate passing of Howard Finkel, one of the longest running employees of WWE. Howard Finkel passing away at the age of 69. Been with the company since 1970s. Been with the company a very long time. One of the first employees hired by Vince McMahon. And is also someone who's very special. He coined a phrase that you've all said out loud, WrestleMania. He's very, very credited for having that term and making it into something special. And, of course, the infamous call of, and the new champion. It was always a special thing he would do there. Details on his passing have not been acknowledged, but the WWE has, of course, expressed much condolences online. Very tough weekend for them already. Howard Finkel, of course, had many, many great moments in the ring, some of them funnier than others. Harvey Whippleman and him had a tuxedo match. He got into a feud with Lillian Garcia. And, of course, a lot of people remember back about 10 years ago, him announcing CM Punk to the ring against Alberto Del Rio, who had his own ring announcer. Very emotional moment for him there up in the Northeast. Scott Chavez texting in here. Scott Chavez. Scott saying, so upset about the Fink passing away. A piece of my childhood ripped apart. That's very sad here. Very sad news. Guy who was a true lover of wrestling. He truly loved the business and loved the art form and was a significant part of it for a long, long time. And just one of those really great support players and a deserving WWE Hall of Famer, inducted in 2009. Richard Weaver saying, I grew up listening to him. A lot of us did. It's hard to think even when he wasn't ring announcing, when they moved Lillian Garcia into that role. Scott George saying, that's upsetting with the Fink passing away. RIP to the best ring announcer ever. Absolutely agree. Can't think of a better voice here. And so a lot of this stuff is just sad news, man. Just some really, really sad news here. We're also looking into the layoffs from yesterday. I can tell you the layoffs from yesterday continue to be the number one story that people are interested in wrestling media right now, in terms of people reading about it, in terms of people asking about it, in terms of people commenting about it, to the point where it really blew out in terms of readership, listenership of anything else that was going on yesterday in wrestling. And not to say that people weren't watching NXT and AEW. We'll get to the ratings for them. But it seemed like this is a big story. So some insight on that. I've spoken to people within the industry. Okay, and this goes from all different points here. I've spoken to a handful of different people here. Some insight into what is going on with well beyond just the WWE wrestlers that were let go or laid off, depending on how you want to phrase it. There was a lot more people that were affected by this. A lot of people well within the production element of doing WWE events were hit by this, but I can say there is some light at the end of the tunnel. There is a sentiment that if WWE gets back on the road and can do shows again, that a lot of these people will get their jobs back. So there is a very, very solid sense of some optimism about this. Also, that optimism is pretty strong amongst the agents or producers. Used to be called producers. Now, producers is the term, but agents is what a lot of longtime wrestling fans know them as. Veteran wrestlers who were helping to put together matches and put together the shows, whether it be a live event or a TV taping, and the intrinsic bell-to-bell action. Plenty of them are laid off, but when you're not running a lot of shows and you're only running just for television, those people were cut back, but their feeling is they could come back. So there is a sense of when that green light is lit, they will be back. So there is some positive sense of that. And that is, there is no official stated term that, yes, we will indeed bring you back, but there is some sentiment there that is widespread amongst the people that were affected by this. So I can tell you that. Other people texting in here, John Kirby wanting to know, is SummerSlam, is it still a go at the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States? As far as we know, right now it is. We can tell you that the upcoming pay-per-view Money in the Bank is not going to happen in Baltimore. That was the original Royal Farms Arena, was the set place for it. You will not be seeing that show live in front of an audience. It is expected that will also be at the WWE Performance Center, though WWE has not officially confirmed the Performance Center is where they're going to be holding that broadcast. Other people with different takeaways here. One more, James Espanto text in here. Best memory of the Fink was him announcing the first Royal Rumble ever I watched. Yeah, that was a special one here. More follow-up here about those releases. One of the more surprising ones was Gallows and Anderson, the part of the club with AJ Styles. They were featured on WrestleMania. They signed some big money contracts just about a year ago to stay with WWE. And them entering the market once again is interesting. Now, what is that market? Where do these guys end up? Do they go to Japan? Had the Young Bucks on their Instagram posting pictures of them yesterday with Gallows and Anderson. So it's very entertaining to see where they could end up, what their names will be. Will they have to change their names? So there's a lot of possibilities here. And there is some positive things you can think of with those more than 24 names that were released in terms of in-ring talent for WWE that could possibly be independent headliners, could be with MLW, could be with Ring of Honor, but are those opportunities available right now? And the thing to note is it will be a buyer's market. It will not be a talent market. Just a couple months ago, it felt like it was a talent market. Now it's the other way around. A lot of people texting in here. Michael Loft saying, if I were Rusev, EC3, or Eric Young, I wouldn't come back. Wouldn't come back to WWE. Well, here's the thing. What I was talking about earlier, I was not referencing in-ring talent. I was referencing people working behind the scenes in WWE. That is who I was speaking of, the insight that I've gained here in the last 24 hours. So that is what is going on right now. Kevin Durgan texting in says, out of the list of layoffs, who will show up in AEW? Now, this is a go-to question that has been ringing across all different forms of the internet since this sad news came out yesterday. I can tell you that I think, and I look at this, that a few, more than a few, But I don't see a big chunk of these guys going to All Elite Wrestling, because I think All Elite Wrestling isn't in too far off of a different circumstance than WWE. They've taped out their television through Double or Nothing. So therefore, if you were to see any of these talents, you would not see them until maybe Double or Nothing or after that. If they are a part of this, where could they go? Where would they be placed? I've heard some people say, well, AEW, aren't they supposed to launch a second TV show under the Warner Media banner? Yeah, but is that in doubt now? That's another question mark, and it's a fair question mark to put on it here. I think the safest bets are the Revival, who were released shortly before this big mass layoff thing. They got out of their deals. I think them showing up in AEW, I wouldn't call it a lock, but it's almost feels very certain that they will. Gallows and Anderson just spoke to them. You spoke about them a few minutes ago. I would say they're in there. They're in that mix of another big tag team coming over at the same time. But you're bringing over two big WWE acts at the same time. Do you want to do that? Do you want to hold off on that a bit? Maybe wait until later in the year and spread these out. If you bring in a bunch of them all at the same time, it would kind of neutralize the effect of them coming back. And maybe if we're in a position where All Elite Wrestling is able to do their shows in front of live audiences, do you want to save these debuts for a live audience? That's a fair question to ask as well, because how much bigger would Matt Hardy showing up in AEW be if he did it in front of a live crowd? How much bigger would it have been for Brody Lee, formerly known as Luke Harper, showing up as the Exalted One, if he did it in front of a live crowd? So if you have a bunch of these in the next few months and you're doing it in front of no audience, does it have the same, for lack of a better phrase, impact as it would if they showed up in front of, no one? I think that's a fair question to ask. And in doing that, does that mean you just don't have those guys come in right now and just kind of keep a line of contact with them? It does put a lot of different interesting question marks also over MLW and Ring of Honor. I could see some of them showing up there. Eric Young, a lot of people would love to see him show back up in Impact Wrestling with that fresh roster and him being a guy who's so tied to that brand. That would be interesting. So a lot of different takes here. People, Chanel texting, Chanel Nez saying, Eric Rowan joins Brody Lee in the Dark Order. He would like to see that. So the Good Brothers back in Japan and the Bullet Club, says Kevin Durgan. He says he could see that as well. And so a lot of different stuff here about what is moving around in the world of wrestling. Thank you guys for sticking with me here through the different tech issues today. Me losing Robert here. Let me see if Robert got back to me here. Is Robert with me? So he's not back with me. He's like, rejoin me if you like. I'm going to say that. We're doing it live, right? So a lot of people here with different takes here. Richard Weaver saying Gallows and Anderson aren't old. You're right. They still have many, many good years in the ring in them, and wherever they choose to do it, it'll be exciting to see it, especially just fresh opponents, fresh takes. I think you could say that, what was the fresh matchup for them too on Raw specifically. So we'll see what happens here. Rusev, I think, is a big name. Where he ends up, I think it'll be very entertaining. And maybe Hollywood is calling him. He's had some acting opportunities and done some different things around that. Maybe there's a possibility there. So let's get into AEW NXT ratings. AEW went with Moxley and Hager in their main event. They also had Colt Cabana getting wrecked by Lance Archer in the TNT title tournament, but it didn't prove to be a ratings win for them. NXT has won for the second week in a row, but ratings for both shows are not particularly great. Both of them under 700,000. NXT winning the night, but AEW getting the demo. So kind of following what we had on last week's run. Now, NXT had some big stuff on this week's show. They had Finn Balor in-ring action against Fabian Aichner. We got to see the mystery partner of Matt Riddle revealed, since we can't have Pete Dunne over from the UK, and it was revealed to be Timothy Thatcher joining him to take on the Undisputed Era in a really, really strong main event, and the debut of Killer Cross, now known as Karrion Kross in the WWE. He attacked Tommaso Ciampa before he could call Johnny Gargano the better man. And this followed after last week's big, long, 45-minute, no fans, empty arena street fight between Ciampa and Gargano. We have Killer Kross. We have a lot of two fresh players, and an interesting shakeup in WWE NXT. So, what do you think here? We know that Io Shirai will take on Charlotte Flair. That's something going on with the title there. AEW did some hot Moxley and Hager, but I heard a lot of fans online not liking the main event. And this isn't me turning on AEW. I got to see Colt Cabana and Lance Archer have a fantastic match. Saw a bit of Hager and Hager and Moxley. Scott George texting here saying he thought AEW was underwhelming. Did not like it. Was not a fan of it. Scott asking here, was NXT taped or live? It was live this week, as far as we know. Michael Off bringing this up. Yeah, they did make a hot match for next week's show. It'll be Velveteen Dream versus Finn Balor. Even though Finn Balor still has his sights set on the NXT UK Championship, he took on one of Walter's goons. Walter holding that title in his Imperium faction. Looks like it'll be pitted against Balor on his road to get that title. But before he can do it, he has to take on Velveteen Dream. It's interesting that they made this match, and Balor came out and called out Dream for bragging about himself being in the title position here. Some people not liking that new name for Killer Kross. What do you think of that? Karrion Kross. WWE wrestlers always get a fresh name or some alterations of their name. These aren't all the matches empty arena matches? True, but the one they filmed with Gargano and Ciampa was a little bit different stylistically. They filmed it differently. Joseph Priestley saying Dream goes over on his way to beat Cole. It'll be interesting to see who wins that match, or if we get a dusty finish. Something makes me think there's going to be a lot of dusty on this one here. So a lot of take here. Herman Takar saying WWE should just what is it? Should have just went with the name Cross. I don't know. Let's bring this in here. Robert, what do you think of this Killer Kross name change? Covering everything falling out of AEW and NXT, a mixed bag of news. Some of it good, some of it bad. But what do you think of the Killer Kross name, or Karrion Kross? I don't think you're a fan of it.
It's gonna take some getting used to. You know, it's gonna take some time. Should he have just gone with the name Cross? That's what I came in and heard. No. I think it's a little weak, you know. Karrion, if we get some backstory, I don't know if there's a character in a story named Karrion spelled like that would have inspired this. Maybe if we find that out, we can, you know, get the vibe of what we're going for. But I think, honestly, it's going to make all the difference in the world, because it'll be how he gets known going forward. Like, nobody really says, oh, I really miss Kevin Steen. We've all kind of gotten used to Kevin Owens, you know?
You know what, dude? I brought this up last night. When Daniel Bryan, that name came out, everyone who was a fan of him as Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor, their eyes rolled hard at that name. And there's some WWE name changes that are on point, and other ones that are just like, ugh, what is this? You know, like, so it just takes some time to get used to it here. I touched on how the ratings are fairly the same as last week, but I know you have the exact numbers in front of you. These are from Showbuzz Daily. Break it down for me. I know NXT won the night, but what's the difference with them and AEW?
You know, NXT did win the night. It's their second win in a row. I believe now we can say it's the first time ever that they won 2 weeks in a row. They drew, or AEW drew 683 viewers overall, down from last week, 692. They came in at number 29 for the night. Showbuzz Daily was slightly down from last week, with only 1,000 person difference here, from 693 to 692. They came in at number 58. They got a .17 rating. So AEW wins the demo. NXT wins the viewers. People online saying it matters. Demo matters. Viewership matters. None of it matters. I don't know, Kev. What do you
It
think
seems
here?
it seems to matter. It seems to be something that people want to tweet. And by people, I mean fans, spiteful fans, right? And people that really love saying Vince or Vinnie Mac. Whenever you see a wrestling fan say Vinnie Mac, they definitely just don't like him. And but the turn is always AEW's crushing them. And I've been holding back on people that get really carny and provocative with their headlines on their articles in wrestling media. But can I don't want to feel like I'm calling somebody out, but maybe I can call it a couple of popular YouTube channels. And I can say this: WrestleZone. We don't have a large footprint on YouTube. We have some content on there. We're growing.
That is a
but
choice.
there's some people.
I want to say that is a choice.
Yeah, but Facebook is that's our real hotbed. That's our real hot seat here. But I can say this, that there's some that produce really great content, but just have these headlines. When AEW had that astonishing and game-changing ratings victory when they debuted in October, and that was not how long ago was that? 7 months ago?
Just about.
Yeah. Okay. So and people said they crushed them, they decimated them, they destroyed them, they wrecked them. Right? And then when NXT came back in December and November with that bump, it was just like, well, it's only because the Raw or SmackDown guys are there. Well, what's the difference? You're going up against WWE. You're so proud to say that you beat WWE, right? So here we are, and we're back at it again, and the circumstances are completely different. And now everyone's going to have a new excuse. Everyone has an excuse. You know what? WWE should have an excuse. Their ratings for their shows are not great right now. Raw took a dip this week. I think we're starting to settle into a new pattern that is very erratic with the ratings patterns right now. You know, SmackDown has been this in terms of that 2 million range that they're playing in, right? And this, though, is a pattern for AEW that, to me, is much more worse than the one for NXT, because the NXT number has stayed steady. This is not something I think an All Elite Wrestling fan wants to hear, and I am one, okay? I don't want to tell you this, but it's the truth. Their numbers are half of what they debuted to, because the circumstances are completely different. People are watching TV in a completely different way. Is prime time even really prime time when everyone's home all the time now? You know what I mean? Like, are people watching news at 10 p.m. or are they just watching the news anytime? You know what I mean? We're in an internet age too. Also, another thing with these numbers that should be noted, and you and I have said this quite a bit, we're only getting the overnight numbers. You know, we don't know how many people are not watching our show today because they're like, "Oh, I haven't watched AEW. I'm not gonna watch. I haven't checked out NXT. I heard about what happened on the show. I'm gonna check it out." And so, also, it doesn't include social numbers. If we're talking a social media number, I mean, AEW has an audience. It's the show where if you're a wrestling fan and maybe you watch Raw or SmackDown, if you have a choice, maybe you go with AEW because you've already watched Raw or SmackDown that week, right? So you get something different. So it's worth saying that both brands are getting hit here on Wednesday night. It's a completely different ratings pattern, completely different media consumption here, and it's all circumstantial. And guess what? That is the excuse, and it's a pretty good one. But if you're going to say, this is the reason why WWE did this, I'm going in the Fozzie Bear voice. I know you love it when I go into the Fozzie Bear voice.
I do. Robert. I tend to enjoy the Fozzie Bear voice. You know,
waka, ratings.
Here's the thing, Kev. People, they want to complain about specifically the nature of what we do, because it's years of a bad rap of just the industry in general. Now there's people who just think that we are all BSers. We are all, you know, those news sites that you see everybody dunk on Twitter. Like, we're not. We're, you know, a lot of us are just reporting straight up fact, and they think that there's a spin, because it doesn't help when it comes to Meltzer, there's an obvious spin, so that everybody thinks there's an obvious spin to everything that everybody does. Because the guy at the top of it, there's a spin. But, we're just reporting the facts, and everybody else can either follow along or, there's plenty of other sites out there.
This is a fair thing here. Ernest texting in saying, I'm tired of seeing fanless wrestling. Do you think it's settling in that it's hurting televised pro wrestling, that people can't see it without a fan? There's no way that it doesn't, but is it a tune-out factor now for people?
There's elements of it that I love that I'm actually going to miss when we go back to normal, and then there's elements of it that really make it feel awkward and disturbing.
Good point here. James Bernardi texting in saying, it's hard to watch at times, but no audience makes the talent work harder / different in the ring, and promos have gotten better in his opinion. You know what? I'll say that too. Yeah, I'll say that too. I am enjoying promos more now than maybe I did before this happened. I'm listening more intently, and that's me with ADD and my mind going off the handle here. But also, thank you to everyone sticking with us with this awful internet connection here. Yeah. I really appreciate it here, especially you guys on the podcast sides of things. You got that big block of silence in the middle of the show. That's what it was. So, wow, you listened this far? Thank you so much. So it is a very odd time. NXT gets the win. What do you think AEW has to do to kind of pivot here? This is something you and I talked on our most recent episode. I said I thought NXT would get the edge on them again, and they do. Is AEW in a tougher spot than NXT right now? Because, I mean, we know what they have. It's in the can. We don't have spoilers. Those haven't come out. But we have a pay-per-view coming up in May where we know they're going to have to run with no fans. At least It looks that way.
And it's awkward. Are they going to end up being better? Right now, no, not until they announce something bigger for their show. Like, for example, the Elite Deletion, I'd do it on TV instead of doing it at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, I would too. And then that'll get some attention. Matt Hardy's already proven he can get some attention doing that online. I also think the All Elite Wrestling audience would be compelled to make sure they were in front of the TV to see that, and make sure they made that appointment viewing. I thought that was the attempt here with Hager versus Moxley. I got to see a bit of it. What did you think of it? I mentioned this a little bit earlier that the sentiment online was sort of a letdown. Now, to be frank, I haven't seen all of it. I saw just up to that with All Elite Wrestling, but you had mixed opinions.
I was super down on it. I thought it was boring. I thought, the match didn't do anything for me. Now, I've considerably gone to sleep, settled down. I don't know if maybe I'll watch it back. Maybe it's as bad as I felt yesterday while watching through the cloud of bad news and brain fog that then delivers. But
that was not a fun day. That was not a fun day to work.
Ultimately, I feel like it was just a letdown of a match. Maybe it's because it was built up for so long, and but you already knew that it was in the can. JR kind of let it slip that this match was taped weeks ago. It just had a weird vibe to it, and that Hager didn't win because things aren't going to leak with a tight set, but I think a new champion would have leaked. So I just felt like
who's to say though? You know what I mean? We had plenty of new champions coming out of WrestleMania, and that was in the can for a week and a half.
That's true. I just feel like it was a bit of a slower match, a bit of a letdown.
Mekran Davis texting in saying Mox versus Hagermeister. Oh, you want to have some delicious Hagermeister beer? He said it was a fight. Some other people texting in saying
Hager is not a star. I see this one. From Joseph Priestley.
Come on. He's a star.
Hager is a stud. Hager is everything you could want in a professional wrestler and more. I think the question then becomes, was he hurt by the WWE run? He was there for a lot of years as a utility player who had a ceiling on him. Maybe some people feel like moving that to the top is a bit akin to the, for lack of any better comparison, I apologize, like it's TNA style. Like, well, he has the exposure, so we're just going to skyrocket him. Maybe some people got that vibe from it. I personally didn't, but who knows?
We brought up how Double or Nothing, once again, no longer going to be in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. They will plan to be there next year in the same time frame of May. But Mark's saying, do you charge for Double or Nothing? Or
Yes.
do it for free? Or do it for free like Fight for the Fallen? What do you think here?
It's interesting. Like, maybe... and they might have the ability to do this, the freedom to do this. Can you pivot? Can you not call it Double or Nothing and just bring that branding back next year and call it
Nothing for nothing? It's nothing for double. That's what they should call it. It should be nothing for double,
or something for no one. Like we're in front of nobody. And maybe you can. I wouldn't say charge nothing for it. I wouldn't charge $50. But then you have the argument of there is a contingency of people who paid $50 for WrestleMania. We don't know how many, but somebody did.
We may know those numbers next week. WWE has an investor call, so we may know some of the information. Pay-per-view information takes like weeks to get. Right, that takes a long time to get. So
yeah,
maybe I'm wrong on that. We'll know a network subscriber number though. I know we'll definitely get that. We'll definitely get a WWE network subscriber. But speaking of Double or Nothing for All Elite Wrestling, if you really wanted to roll the dice, and I'm not trying to be silly because it's a gambling themed pay-per-view. Yeah. If you wanted to roll the dice and put a show out for free again, because they did this with Fight for the Fallen, right? That was a free show that they streamed on BR Live, right? I think there's a possibility they could do something for free. But I mean, if they're going to do it, I don't see it on TNT. I see, Warner has that BR Live platform to get the show on, and that platform is held up as a streaming service. And if you want to get people on that service again, when everyone's streaming everyone, and Netflix has astounding, huge numbers right now, bigger than it's ever been, and WWE certainly pivoted back towards saying, hey, look at what we got on the network again, leading up to WrestleMania when everyone thought maybe they were going back to pay-per-view. So if you're All Elite, if it happened, it would be a really positive move and a keen move for them to make right now.
They have the power in their hands right now to make some on-the-fly changes to show that they're a really user-friendly, performer-friendly brand. Right now, people are dying for a fan-friendly, performer-friendly brand of wrestling in the United States. There's a lot of criticism going on about what WWE did yesterday. It wouldn't be a better time than to just pull the trigger, maybe take a loss, but do a free show. I think it'd be a good move. I just don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Dillian Ciani, this has become a real talking point. Not saying it was stupid, but it will always be cheaper if you get the network pay-per-view a part of the past than most companies are using streaming services. So there's some truth to that. Definitely here. You ready to fire off these questions here, guys?
I think I am, Kevin.
All right, so fire off your questions about anything going on in the world of wrestling. What a day. Another day where I'm dealing with internet demons and all that good stuff. I think I'm going to move back to the Good Brother studio. I got to get back there. I got to get off the dryer and get back there too.
You get off the dryer and back on.
Yeah, back on the couch. Like everybody else. Like everybody else isn't on a couch here. So fire off your questions about anything going on in the world of wrestling here. I want to read this one. Big Kev and Robert, can the Khan family afford to put on another free show? They are taking a huge hit with their football and football leagues. Yes. Who knows? I wonder what the backdoor financial moves that the Khan family is going to make here with All Elite Wrestling. Now, it's a little bit easier on the
company.
That's the
They
point.
don't have to
They're not
report.
publicly traded. They don't have to report it. And also, if there is layoffs from All Elite Wrestling, if they do have cutbacks, you won't see them on the surface nearly as quickly as you did with WWE. And that's a company that's in an easier position to have people sign non-disclosure agreements. When they're a private company, they can get ask that a little bit easier legally. They can get away with it a little bit easier. Do I think AEW is going to make cuts? I've been asked that question, I think, earlier in the show. Just to touch on that, I don't know. I really, really don't know, because they haven't structured their roster for house shows, and they're only doing that one TV taping, the one TV show every week. But my issue could be, if you're not using somebody, furloughs could happen. I could see contracts, if you have guys with guaranteed money, saying, hey, we're in this hardship and we're going to ice your money until we have to use you again for a storyline, especially if you're doing group tapings. If you're coming out of Double or Nothing and you're just going to tape, another 2 months of TV to get through whatever the show you're going to do in the summer is, are you going to keep half that roster? Is it financially reasonable if you have guys on guaranteed money to do that? And those questions are going to have to get asked, and they probably have already been asked. If All Elite Wrestling makes cuts, I don't see them getting the same backlash that WWE got.
Right. I think it would be more surprising because, as you said, they're structured differently. They're structured for TV, and right now they're still doing TV. It just depends on how long this all lasts.
Mm-hmm. Another COVID-19 question here being asked: Do you think WWE will go back to combining rosters till this is over to fill their shows? No, I don't think they'll do that. And the reason they have that is because of the way their television is set up. They were very active and saying this very, very publicly within the entertainment press, that they wanted two defined brands. They wanted two different shows and a different set of talent. Now, obviously, when you get a pay-per-view, you're going to see a lot of the same brands together and different events, and they kind of merge. Asuka's on Raw or SmackDown, depending on the championship you have. You have Charlotte on Raw NXT. Certainly, they fly in and out of each other's shows, but for the most part, you're going to have three defined brands here, and I think that's the way it's moving forward, because that's kind of the way they've structured their TV for their TV partners. Robert?
Yeah, I would say that they're going to try their best to keep the brand split. It might end up being a place where they might not have a choice. But right now the cuts haven't been that drastic to where, okay, we gotta lump this thing back in.
Yeah. Stephen Chambers, thank you so much for supporting the show so long, Steve. Nice to see you again. What's next for AJ now after Anderson and Gallows have been cut? Do you see AJ wanting to leave? Well, AJ is not going anywhere. He signed a long-term deal with WWE, and he said it would be his last deal that he would sign with a wrestling company. Could I see him doing some things after WWE sporadically here and there outside of the company? Sure. But I think this is his last big contract he's going to do in wrestling. And I think he has more big single feuds. This guy had a really, really talked about match with The Undertaker. Yes, he was buried, but we know he's going to get out of it. Everyone gets out of a buried alive match. No one actually gets buried alive. Proverbially, maybe.
I wonder how much that played into the decision to release Anderson and Gallows. Here are two guys who I believe had maybe signed a new deal with them recently, but
big money contracts too. They
kind of got blown up. They kind of got blown up in the fake world, like Undertaker lit the house on fire and they were there. And I mean, it opened the door for a nice release. Both have already basically said, we're coming back to Japan. That's a lock. They've already kind of said, with Anderson putting out a video saying he was flying to Tokyo, and Gallows putting out an old school Bullet Club picture. That is where they're headed, it seems.
I'm excited for that first episode of Talkin' Shop, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think I might be coming this week. And if I had to guess,
oh boy,
I had to guess, I think they knew. Maybe
do you know what WWE brand suffers the worst in this loss from Gallows and Anderson not being there?
What's that?
Southpaw Regional Wrestling.
Oh, that's right. Chad Too Bad And
We ain't
Tex
gonna have no
Ferguson.
Chad Too Bad, no Tex Ferguson. We're gonna have Sex Ferguson.
We are
That's
gonna have
right.
Tex Ferguson on the High Spots
Yeah.
Wrestling Network now, so
Yes,
that's gonna be a
dude.
good
If you
time.
haven't seen that, go look it up here.
I wouldn't be surprised if they double dip. I can't imagine Gallows and Anderson wanting to permanently be overseas again. So maybe they get those contracts that's like, we want to do both. We want to do New Japan and AEW, or New Japan and Ring of Honor, or whatever.
Here we go. Ryan Hyde says, "Hey, could you explain what's happening with WWE and releasing talent? Is there reasons behind? What are the reasons behind this? We covered this extensively at WrestleZone yesterday. Just running it down. Vince McMahon had a conference call. He said that the executive board was all taking pay cuts. He said that they were going to make financial cutbacks across the board with talent, with producers, with production staff. I can tell you from talking to people within the industry that are adjacent to it that those cuts are a lot more widespread than what we know publicly. Obviously, we know when a wrestler gets released from WWE. They say it. 24 talents got let go. The estimated number, the talked about number, is that $4 million was saved just with talent. We don't know the number that has been saved with the releases of agents or production staff, by the way. And we also don't know the numbers in terms of just yet of how much those pay cuts have been to the that have been voluntarily made by the board staff there as well. We do know that WWE has a $500 million cash reserve for debt on hand. And everyone goes, oh, well, why did they do this if they got those big TV contracts last year? The huge TV contracts are very good, but they don't get that money in one lump sum. Right. They signed for over $1 billion with Fox and over $1 billion for NBC Universal to renew Raw on NBC, Universal through USA, and SmackDown on the Fox network. Those deals are spread out. Another big thing that financially as to why this could be justified too is there may not be a Saudi Arabia show this year. So Saudi Arabia is a huge money deal for WWE and for all the wrestlers that get to go and do it. I can tell you the payouts to go do that show for even the smallest participation sometimes is very, very high. Losing a Saudi Arabia show is probably a bigger financial blow to the company than losing WrestleMania. And you already lost a live WrestleMania with the biggest merchandise quarter of the year is that. You see all that merchandise that gets spread out and sold now. So you're taking a hit there. Many different factors, and your TV money is your hard money that's going to keep coming in. You don't need as many people, and the cuts were made. Now, the timing of the cuts in a pandemic when there's a lot of hardships on just everyday Americans, not just people performing professional wrestling on TV, it doesn't look good. And the PR backlash of it has been severe. Do I think WWE will weather it? Yeah, because people want to watch wrestling.
Yeah, and I couldn't say it any better myself. People want to watch wrestling.
And also the guys and gals who got cut, who lost their jobs, they probably still want you to watch wrestling too. You know what I mean? Like I if I lost my job, I wouldn't be like, don't watch that show. You know what I mean? Don't. I'm on 101 WKQX in Chicago. If I got laid off, I wouldn't say, don't listen to that radio station. Come on.
I did see some people, not within those that were released, but just some within the industry saying, I canceled my network subscription. I don't feel right, supporting them right now. And I'm like, that's a personal decision, and I support that. I think a lot of people are going to take this a lot of different ways. Like, I was hurt over this because I came on here yesterday and I told you, I said, I think it's ridiculous that they flew some guys in on Monday and cut them on Wednesday. I think that's unfair. What
is the you want me to do a real heel thing? I want to do a real heel thing, Robert.
I'll do the real heel thing.
What is the theme song to Malcolm in the Middle? They Might Be Giants. Life is unfair. That'd be the worst thing I could say. It isn't fair. It isn't fair. And I don't think there's a lot of things that are fair right now.
In response to that, there's a lot of
underutilized
talent who can look at the machine and say, you're not the boss of me now.
Yes. You want to be a real independent contractor? Let's see it. You know what I mean? And you're talking about a lot of talent that was developed in the WWE machine that were not they were not. I mean, they had some independent experience, but the core of their career has been there, right?
Correct.
And they're going to hit the market, and you're going to be able to see them on the end of. Who might benefit the most from this? Independent wrestling, regional promotions, your AEWs, your freelance wrestlings, your PWGs in California, your Chikaras in the Mid-Atlantic. A lot of those promotions could benefit greatly from this.
Kind of disagree with that a little bit, and that's why. Who's not benefiting from this? The young indie talents who didn't get their Mania payday and now have Zack Ryder, Leo Rush, Kurt Hawkins, and everybody else.
They're going to have to compete for spots with those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Who are we going to go with? The guy who's 6 months out of bump school, or are we going to go with Zack Ryder? If I'm going to fill my armory, I think we're going to go with with Zack Ryder. So that's another story here. Carl Burma, he says, we touched on this at the beginning of the show. If you're joining us live, you can roll back and hear that. Do you think the latest news concerning Mania 2021 is unlikely? And like my opinion, more the press trying to scaremonger. Well, here's the thing. We had an argument with people watching the show just a half an hour ago. We're not doing this to scare you. This isn't clickbait. This is a fire chief email getting out to the press, the LA Times, mainstream press, not wrestling-slam news with a z.angelfire.com. Okay, this isn't like some questionable source. This is the Los Angeles Times newspaper. Okay, a newspaper of record. Isn't that the proper term, Robert?
They were. Here's the thing. I want to attack this at the heart, the scaremonger, and I know that there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, the coronavirus, and we can't give in to fear." And this is a lot of you're thriving off of fear right now in the media. No, I think we would have been in better standing if we didn't take that position back in January, February. There was a lot of people who wanted to write this off, and now we're in the position we're in. At this point, I say better safe than sorry. I don't think we last this whole thing through next April and we don't get a Mania, but I better safe than sorry.
No, I agree with you. I do think I'm not saying that Mania isn't happening, and I never said that WrestleMania wasn't happening. I'm just saying the situation in Los Angeles where they're doing the show in California, and also California in terms of the United States is one of the toughest states with the regulations right now. You had the San Francisco Bay Area was one of the first major cities to go into a shutdown. Their cultural sense of grabbing this and trying to choke this thing out, and I'm talking about the virus, is stern. They're a pretty stern state. They were an early adopter. So I see them being a longer adopter of these policies here. Jay is texting in, do you see some of them, I guess he's referencing the talent that were released, going to Ring of Honor? We mentioned this a little bit earlier. Yes, Deonna Purrazzo, I am expecting her to show up in Ring of Honor. They need a female talent. They are going to crown a new Ring of Honor Women's Champion. I think they need some fresh tag teams. And I can see that absolutely happening. I'm Kevin Kelm. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show with all the tech issues today and all the different things, no matter how you're watching, no matter how you're listening to it. I hope you continue to support us. Support my buddy there as well, Dude Felice. Follow Robert DeFelice over there. You can see his stuff at WrestleZone.com and this website called Fightful. You can also check me out on Twitter at Kev Kellam, at KEVKELLAM, and hear me on the radio anywhere in the world on 101 WKQX. Great alternative music will be on air this weekend, and you guys can check all that out. Of course, if you don't already do it, subscribe to the podcast, WrestleZone Radio, on your podcast app of choice. We will return on Monday night. Iridian Fierro from Rest Friends will join me on our Raw post show, and we may even have some breaking news video popping up here on Facebook before then. Remember, when you watch wrestling, enjoy wrestling.